Good evening, people in podcast land. Brendan Cunningham, the real estate doctor, here for eXp. With me, our partner here, Matt Paul.
Hello.
He does it all. We may have some drop-in guests today, but in the meantime, questions. You have questions? You have questions?
Yeah, we get a lot of questions.
We get a lot of questions. We have answers. And keeping with the theme of this show, which is for everybody. It's for buyers. It's for sellers. It's for investors,
For
other agents, competitors. We give you the real story here. We're not going to tell you what you want to hear. We're going to tell you what you need to know, and then you take the information as it comes to you. But that's really the premise of the show. Having said that, I had a question the other day, and it was one of these things that I saw on as a follow-up to a social media post. Questions you should be asking your agents.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Like, what kind of questions do people ask you?
Oh, well, why are you selling?
Why are you selling? Very, very common question. And what's interesting about that, it seems like a simple question. Why would somebody want to know that?
I feel like they think that they could get some kind of an advantage, maybe?
An advantage. Realistically, do you think you're going to get much of an advantage? No. Probably not these days, because the market is the market is the market. And chances are prices are probably going up in your area like they are in most of the United States. Stick with us, we're going somewhere on that.
Yep.
Pick that up. But what's interesting about that question is depending on which agent you ask, they may or may not be able to answer the question, or maybe they have to give you a question that's not going to necessarily help you. Example, somebody walks into an open house, the listing agent who's working for the seller is asked, so why are they selling? It turns out it might be a divorce. If it's a divorce and the sellers have told their agent specifically that they don't want people to know that for whatever reason, can they answer the question?
Absolutely not.
No, they can't, because they're fiduciaries. First role of the fiduciary is to obey. They have to obey their client. They're not breaking any laws. They're not. Now, here's something that couldn't happen, where somebody says to their agent, and I don't want anyone of a certain ethnic group to look at my house.
Nope,
That they can obey. That's against the law.
Yes.
So depending on the question, you may think it's a good question, but maybe it's a question that doesn't serve your purpose. Having said that, we get asked a lot of questions that have to do with statistics.
Yes. So we're just talking about some of the statistics before we went on today, and it's the little micro markets.
Microclimates. I can talk about right now. It's a balmy 23 degrees here in beautiful downtown Buffalo.
Yes, and even within a town, there could be a different market within a town. So we were doing some research today, and in 14031, which is the Clarence zip code, the average house right now in that area is $545,000, which is far beyond the norm or the average for our entire area.
Mm-hmm.
And then even within the town of Clarence, there's Clarence Center, which is a different zip code, 4032, and that one, the average is $450,000. So in that.
One little bracket. What's the price difference?
$95,000 difference. So that's a little.
In the first case, it's almost 20%.
Yes.
That's a 20% swing just for driving 1 mile down the road.
You got it.
Or not, maybe not even.
Yep.
Any others that are?
Yeah, so another one that we thought was pretty interesting is in North Buffalo and Kenmore, they border each other, and pretty much Kenmore Avenue is the dividing line.
Right.
And in Kenmore, right now, the average is $265,000. In North Buffalo, it's $345,000. So that's an $80,000 swing in just.
So it's a third higher to go less than a mile down the road.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's why it's really important to get an agent that knows the market and the microclimates. And pretty much every market has a microclimate to it if you really respect that and understand it. Now, last week we had a rock star here, so as it turns out we lucked out and we may have him drop in again.
Yeah, I think
So having said that, the Josh Allen of the real estate business in Western New York, Joel Husvar. Come in, where are you, Joel? He's going to land, I can see.
There's a 0% chance I'm filling the Josh Allen real estate shoes here.
maybe by height, you're close.
Yeah, right? Yeah, a little bit.
Well, you may not be able to throw the football like him, but much like Josh Allen, I think one of the things that makes Josh Allen is he's a leader. He is such a leader on the field. And you've been a leader, not just in the organization, but in the association, youngest president in the history of the association, 110 years. a Realtor of the Year. You're a true leader in the industry, and when you talk, people listen. Having said that, what kind of questions do people ask you?
Oh, geez. Well, actually, the interesting thing is, I've been focusing so much for a decade on building a brokerage.
Right.
So a lot of the questions I used to get were from fellow agents. It's how do I negotiate in this situation? How do I, fill out this form? What's this nuance of whatever the situation is? And now I'm back in the field. It's such a different planet. I mean, yes, still obviously I'm supporting the team, but being out in the field, like the biggest thing that I've been getting is like the importance of valuing a house correctly.
Well priced, half sold.
Yeah. Well, in our presentation, we do, again, having a really strong presentation helps make sure A, you're on track, but B, that the client fully knows what's going on. But like, majority of our presentation is make sure you price your house correctly.
Right. And set the expectations based on it.
Yes.
So you want to price it, $100,000 over what the market is, just expect that the market may not respond.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and and especially during winter, presidential, whatever you're gonna attribute it to, you have to really hit the nail on the head with pricing a house.
Gotta get it right.
In today's world.
Yeah, you really do have to get it right. People really underestimate the value of this.
Yeah.
Oh, well, hey, I don't want to give it away and all these crazy things.
Yeah.
Stop. The market's the market is the market.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that should be taught in every economics class. Supply and demand, and the market is the market.
And that dictates the price, right? A property is only willing what somebody's willing to sell it for and what a buyer is willing to buy it for.
One of our favorite expressions we hear sellers say this, that you don't understand, I need to get X.
Yeah.
And my standard response is, I hear you, I need, and I really look in the eyes, I look them right in the eyes on this, and I say, I need to look like Robert Redford when he was 35. It's not gonna happen, but I need that, okay? So, yeah, no one cares.
Need that for the podcast.
No one cares.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yes.
The market's
It'll help the viewers.
Yes, exactly.
One of the things that you wouldn't know, but that makes Joel a good leader, is he's constantly not only looking to train himself and get better, but we're constantly in training. Now, as it turns out, all three of us are certified mentors with EXP. That means EXP thinks that we're smart enough where we can pass on our information and knowledge to the people that we work with under us. We do that, but today we had a special training session before we came here. And one of the things we were talking about is, working with photographs and things like that, and something came up where, and many times if you're looking at things online, houses look great online sometimes. Sometimes the pictures may not reflect the reality. Fair?
Yes.
True.
And it's one thing if the grass looks a little greener because the photographer doctored it, but something came up and it was important that we made this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is what you can't do with those pictures. You can't remove things like somebody had power lines
Yeah.
in the bit. Now, true, if I looked at the house, I could probably see the power lines, but because we're advertising it, you can't remove those things because that's not an accurate representation.
It's false
Well, and that's
It's false advertising.
False
It's
advertising.
true. Yeah.
Yep.
So you don't want to bait and switch people, and I know we kind of push those boundaries, putting the baby blue skies in, but something blatant as taking out power lines, like that's like, oh, you know what, the shed's ready to fall down, let's just delete the shed.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Or it's a telephone pole in front of the property.
Yeah.
It's there. You can't do that.
And power lines are something that I've had experience with in the past with some buyers that will not even look at a house near high tension power lines, and some people just have, a preconceived notion about.
There's so much controversy on electromagnetic fields.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
so much, and
So
some people say, "Oh my God, your head's gonna fall off. Your kids are gonna have six legs and all that." And the other people say, "Yeah, it's not a big deal."
Exactly.
So
Yep.
I don't know.
I had a client, it's funny you brought that up, probably 5 years ago, I was representing them as a seller, and they were looking to buy a house. They refused to be within, I believe it was 1.5 miles of any of those.
The transfer
transform,
stations.
yeah, no transformers can even be near them.
Wow.
And so she had a whole map where it said where all of them were. We were able to plug it in and look around, but it really took a lot of properties out of the pool.
So it really does matter to some buyers. So to take that out of a picture is
It
just
does matter to
crazy.
some buyers, but there was a house that was right next to one of the big transfer stations out in South Towns next to Orchard Park there, and it was right next to it. Now, aesthetically, I gotta tell you, I wouldn't want that, but it would be aesthetic. That house was like one of the easiest houses to sell.
Really?
They would turn up every 5 years and it would sell in a day. It was a nice
Wow.
house, but it was right next to the train. So it didn't seem to bother a lot of people, but hey, I wouldn't want it, but what are you gonna do?
True, very true.
And there's a lot of rules of thumb, saying like you don't want to be next door to the train tracks. But Jim Kelly, one of our football players in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
his house, when he moved up here, the train ran right behind his house. I mean, he could bounce a football off the conductor's face as he waved past him.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was an expensive house, so it didn't seem to bother him. But
Well, and it is to each their own, because I had a
Yes.
similar story actually this year, and I said to the client, I was doing virtual showings for them. They were transferring in from a different city. And I said, hey, I'm the eyes and ears, right?
Right.
Like, you're trusting me to make your largest financial decision, and you haven't even seen the place.
Yeah.
You're looking at an iPhone video here. And I had to say, like, hey, there's train tracks right here. They go, oh, good. It puts me to sleep. I grew up with train tracks in my backyard.
Wow.
Well, sure, this is the one for you.
you know what?
Like,
Yeah.
But that's great you didn't not disclose that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah, the train thing is interesting. The rule of thumb is you really don't want to be one, but it doesn't seem to bother a lot of people. And I know like in Orchard Park, which is one of the nicer suburbs, the more expensive houses are closest to the train track.
yeah. Wow, interesting.
Doesn't make
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
learn something new every day, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Okay, so we're coming into end of January, February. We typically have around what we call the January thaw.
Oh, yeah.
I
Not
don't
this
know,
year.
I don't know if it's thawed yet.
I think it was the January Arctic this
Yeah,
year.
I
It's
think
January
you're
Arctic.
right.
Well, what does that
Vortex.
typically mean? A lot of times what that means is, in the old days, it used to be the spring market actually started January 15th.
Yep.
And most people think the spring market starts in
Like March, April.
spring.
Yeah.
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 Gee, why do they call it the spring market? But it actually starts a little before that. So we're starting to see houses come onto the market, not with the ferocity that we'd like to see, but there is more inventory these days.
Absolutely, yeah. And I just talked to a client or another agent yesterday that had a house that went up in North Tonawanda that she had 5 offers and 2 additional offers that didn't even engage because there was so much activity. So,
Wow.
and that was in the we had some of the worst winter weather that we've experienced in a few years. During that week.
The coldest day of the year.
Yeah,
this
and
last week.
they still got multiple offers, and there was like over 60 showings. So I think the spring market's starting to pick up.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I'm noticing more and more showings on my listings. I have a few listings right now, and the last, 48 hours, it's been ding, 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 ding,
Good.
ding. Yeah, so I
Excellent.
think we scheduled, probably in the last 48 hours, 7 or 8 private showings across 2 different listings, so.
It's great.
Yeah.
The sun helps a little. We did get a little of that bright sun the last few
house.
days, and
Yeah, I love the picture that you showed last night outside your window overlooking the falls there where it was
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Red sky at night.
Yep.
That was
Yes,
the
sir.
light. Red sky in the morning, we don't like that.
Yeah, sailors be
You're
warned.
you're
That
in for
that
it.
is not good.
Yeah, yeah.
Not
That's when the ice boom breaks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. You hear about that?
Yeah.
good.
The ice boom,
break?
yeah, because
Yeah,
the high
broke.
winds yesterday.
Oh, that's not good.
So they
Oh,
said
high winds,
a
yeah.
couple chunks of ice the size of vehicles went down the river. So
Yeah.
they're warning people like you that have waterfront, just to be careful and keep an eye on things.
It's
But
icebergs cranking
Yeah.
down the river.
yeah.
Oddly enough, speaking of icebergs, the ship that got stuck,
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was driving on whatever the road there is the I-90
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right on the
one-
river.
190,
I'm
yeah.
and I'm seeing this thing, and it was like an hour before it got stuck.
Oh,
I said,
wow.
"There's no way this guy's not going to get stuck." We had a ship that got stuck in the ice. I said, "What is this guy thinking? You can't go through this big container ship." I was carrying wheat to the Cheerios factory, and
Okay.
and they got stuck. They were out there for 2 days.
Our little tugboat couldn't do anything. I
No
guess they
way.
got
No, they-
another one from Detroit.
They had to get an icebreaker in
Yeah.
here.
And then they towed it out. I heard they
Yeah.
ended up pulling the boat and
Yeah.
towing it, far enough so that it wasn't in the ice. And Yeah,
Hopefully they had a couple snacks to hang out for a couple
I know,
extra days.
that crew was stuck on there for days.
Yeah, they were stuck on there for days,
Yeah.
and I took my grandson over to see it. I said, "You don't see this every day with these
right.
idiots out here." And sure enough, they had gotten it out by then. I said, "Oh, son of a gun! I wanted to see it."
Did you bring your binoculars when you went?
You know, it was gone by then.
Oh, okay.
For those that are here and now watching it live,
Mhm.
Niagara Falls is frozen too.
Yeah, that happens like
Oh.
every 50 years or so. Where it freezes
Frozen over.
Cool.
That's gonna be my field trip after probably this.
Yeah, go take
Oh,
some
really?
pictures.
Yeah, why
You're
not?
gonna walk down
Yeah.
there?
See you guys. Oh yeah, I'll just walk right off the cliff.
I don't know if I'd do that.
Nice.
Stay away from that. Don't go
Yeah,
near the
yeah.
edge.
And the thing is, if you ever, unfortunately, the falls are sort of a suicide thing. People jump over the falls. If you're ever gonna do it, jump over the Canadian falls, not the American. The American falls are a nightmare. It's all rocks. It's all
Right.
rocks on the bottom.
Well, I'll make it Canada's problem too, right?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. So the market's starting to percolate, and the rates are whatever they are.
Yeah, they're still
And-
staying right where they've been, but for the most part, the uptick in activity is a good sign.
Right. One of the questions comes up on rates. Like it's credit scores.
Yep.
What's the lowest credit score you could have to buy a house?
So for what have heard in the past,
I've heard. We hear this all the time,
Yeah,
but
we
depending on who
hear
you
it.
talk to, you hear something else.
yeah, and it changes. It fluctuates, but I think it's around the 640 from what I've heard. And you said 6.25, so it's low sixes.
And I've heard very different.
Have you?
What I claim, and again, we probably don't have any kind of
No.
actual. Well, I'm not a banker.
We'll have a
I
mortgage
don't-
guy next time.
Yeah.
I don't even play a banker on TV.
Yeah.
But what I did hear is VA. There's no minimum credit score.
Right.
Oh.
It's not a requirement. Now, again, rates are going to be, if you have a 100 credit score, it's probably going to be tough to get the house.
Yeah.
But I did hear that, for our veterans, they don't require a minimum credit score
That's
to be
great.
able to get a home.
And then
That's
there's always
great.
the exceptions to the rule too, where if you're a doctor, or we talk about kids that are coming out of medical school, they got $1 gazillion in medical loans and all this kind of stuff. But they'll pretty much give them whatever they want because they know they're going to make money. They'll be able to pay it back. So the credit score is not as important to those people.
Yep.
That's why it's
creative-
important why you have to talk to your mortgage broker, very, very early in the game.
Because they can help consult you too as well and get
Well,
your
then
credit
set
score
you
up.
straight. Say, listen, maybe you need to get your credit score up.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe you don't. Maybe you got anyone else can sign. What else? What else can you do
Yep.
to improve your situation? But yeah, depending on your score, it's a slightly different purchase.
Absolutely. Yep. And it does. It's a little all over the board. It's hard to pinpoint an exact number, but like you said, Joel, you speak with a mortgage lender, they'll always be able to advise you better on that side.
Yep.
And you do commercial work,
Yes,
right?
yeah, I do. Yep.
I can, but I don't usually, so I probably just refer that to you.
Yep.
And you do you're an octopus. You're all over the board.
Yeah.
But-
Cross-trained is what we like to call
Yes.
that.
Okay. That's one of those euphemisms. Okay.
But commercials picked up this year for me, where last year it was a quiet year. So this year it seems like it's taken off a little bit. You can see a lot of the reports about the commercial lending and a lot of the loans that are coming up to the end of their the duration, and they're behind and everything else. So we don't know exactly what's going to go on yet this year. But.
And what's interesting, especially with commercial and COVID, all of the commercial buildings are empty because
Yeah.
people are working remotely.
Oh, office buildings.
Office
Yes.
bu-
Yeah,
and office buildings.
warehouses are hot. Industrial is hot.
Yes,
Yep.
but the office buildings, be interesting to see. This is not a political thing here, but we did see that Donald Trump said, all you guys that are working for us, you're coming back to work.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay?
Back in the
Why don't
office.
you come back to the office. If other companies follow suit with that, well, then the commercial market will change, office space will change a little bit.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I've been thinking, listen, I don't know what they're gonna do with this space because now you can't effectively work remotely. Maybe it should be converted into housing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we've seen that in other places.
And we've seen a lot of single family homes. I know I had one up for lease not too long ago. That was in a law office, and it was a converted single family home.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those properties that were single family converted to office would be a pretty easy retrofit back to single family.
Yeah.
So that's an option. But the high rise offices and stuff, yeah, we need to be creative with coming up with a different use.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I saw that years ago in New York City, they were converting office buildings over and making them into residential.
Yeah,
properties.
apartments,
And-
lofts.
and beautiful spaces.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely.
I mean, you go downtown here, we got a lot of vacant office space.
Yes, we
down
do.
here.
Well, I mean, speaking of office space, I mean, we're sitting in, it's called spaces.
Yeah.
And what, one of the perks of our company is we have access to 3,000 offices around the world, something
Around the
like
world.
that. And
Anywhere around the world.
they're banking on people coming back to work. We're in a
38,000 square feet, but who's counting?
38,000 square foot building, and they're renting it out by the room.
Yep.
So they just took occupancy of this place, what, 60 days ago, give or take?
Not long ago. yeah.
Something like that. And they're banking on filling up 38,000 square feet of people that are saying, hey, you know what? I got to get out of the living room because I'm going to be doing laundry, I'm going to be playing with the dog, whatever your issue is. I got to get to work.
And it's a really smart way to go because they don't have to rent super expensive space but get all the perks of the expensive space.
Exactly.
And they're only using what they need
Yep.
Yeah.
as opposed to what they have available.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting time to be alive, and I guess it's like the Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. I don't know.
Just in time for Lunar New Year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's my favorite holiday.
Great.
Yeah, so there's some interesting things going on in the real estate business, and ask questions of people that you know, like, and trust in the real estate business, and hopefully you can make better decisions that way.
Well, speaking of asking questions, I mean, now would be the time to write in the comments any questions you have for us.
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll follow them up.
Yep.
You'll be showing up on the next ad. Hey, who knows? Maybe we'll bring you in.
And Chet from Walla Walla, Washington said, "Who's that guy with the beard?"
Yeah, which one?
He owes me money. That's which one? So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of our show for today.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
just wanted to make sure that you knew that we're here for you, and you have questions, we have answers, but we're going to give you the real answers. And if we don't know, we'll say,
Let me Google that.
It's a jump shot. Let me Google. We'll get back to you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone tuning in. Please like, follow, comment. Let us know what you think of our show, and thank you.
I'd say go Bills, but they already went.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
next
We'll see them next
man.
year.
Next
Yeah.
year.
Until next year.
Heartbreak Hotel. But we're okay. We still love these guys.
Yep. Moving on. Thank you for tuning in.